Welcome back, everybody. Well, we've certainly covered a lot of territory this semester. Now it's time for my favorite question. So what? It's a question our faculty asks a lot at Bexley Seabury. We no longer take for granted that there are certain subjects related to the Bible and theology that get taught by reflex because, everyone needs them to get ordained. We always ask of the material we put forward in the classroom, how does this teaching change the listener? How does it help the listener to change the world for the better? I'll try to answer those questions in this final installment of my talks. I'd like to start with two images of Jesus on the cross. One you've already seen if you've been following along, and one you haven't. This image of Christ the King is ubiquitous in church supply catalogs. As I mentioned in my first talk, we had identical wood carvings in Seabury's Evanston Chapel and Refectory. So this was the image of Jesus that presided over our life and worship. While I understand how this image came to be, I can no longer offer even a shred of support for its continued usage. If the cross expresses God's solidarity with the suffering of the world, it becomes deeply problematic to picture Jesus as a Northern European white man, since the empires these folk created have a disproportionate role in the chaos the world is in today. Will we tell African Americans who have survived slavery and lynching and an ongoing war against their dignity, "Here is your Savior"? Will we tell Jews who survived pogroms and the Holocaust, "Here's our Jewish God"? Will we tell the poor, "This obviously rich white man cares very much about you"? Even apart from issues of race, ethnicity, and class, there's the medieval attire, trying so hard to prove the Enlightenment never happened. I wish every community using an image like this would take it down, and the catalogs would stop selling them. I'm not holding my breath. This is a Filipino penitente, a man allowing himself to be crucified on Good Friday as an offering to God. The Catholic Church in the Philippines officially disapproves of this practice, but it continues to thrive nonetheless. As you can see, this is not a sham recreation of Jesus' crucifixion. Those are real nails going through the man's hand. He's enduring this ordeal in the hopes of healing his son, who has leukemia, because his family has no access to health care. Here's an instance in which innocent suffering becomes a tradable commodity. This man has done nothing wrong, so he hopes his gratuitous pain may tip the scales of the universe in favor of his son. I'm glad the church discourages this practice, but it would be great if we could also lobby the government to get the poorest Filipinos adequate health care. And as much as I wish this man had better alternatives to help his son, as an image of the death of Jesus, he certainly brings more veracity than the Christ the King we just looked at. He's brown, he's poor, and he's powerless. The irony is that people who do look like Northern European Christ the King, the Northern European Christ the King, flock to the Philippines every year to take pictures of the spectacle of multiple crucifixions for their family and friends. Of course, it's the Apostle Paul whose hand is behind much of what I've been talking about this semester. It was his letters that located the salvation brought to us through Jesus Christ squarely in his death on the cross. The Gospels tell the story of the reign of God come near and portray Jesus' death as the consequence of his refusal to compromise its demands for radical equality. The unintended result of Paul's focus on Jesus' sacrificial death is that we've used the image of it to process a lot of our most basic biological and sociological questions and problems. We've made the dying Jesus an object of desire, reveling in the helpless exposure of a man who would otherwise be at the top of the social hierarchy. My meditation on these images has led me to reject them all. I don't want anyone's blood shed in sacrifice for me. I don't need a hero. And I don't want to be guilted into loving God because Jesus is suffering innocently on my behalf. So what kind of image would I choose to express the meaning of Jesus' death? I've thought about that a lot, and here's what I came up with. In John 12:24, Jesus says, "Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." So Jesus dies an individual and rises a community. The early church understood this truth when the bishop threw open the doors to the church and addressed the congregation at the great vigil of Easter with the words, "Greet Christ risen in his newly baptized." Thanks for watching and for your helpful comments. A number of you have asked whether I'm going to finish the book by Christmas. Probably not, given the demands of the holiday. But I'll tell you what, I've got 10 great chapter outlines. I'd like to thank Jaime Briceño, Bexley Seabury's digital missioner, for suggesting these short lectures, live streaming and recording them, and posting them online. Without him, I'd still be staring at a computer screen, trying to write my book. Come on to the other side of the camera. Here he is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.